everyone. Oh, we are live. Okay. Hi. What's going on, everyone? Welcome to UConnect's next to I guess of a summer event. My name is Rudy. I go by Ruzo. I work with BoomTV as the premium events lead. And with me, I have two awesome panelists. If you don't mind introducing yourself.
Sure. My name's Alexis Journey. I just go by Alexis in game. I play for Cloud9 White, all-female professional Valorant team.
Hey, I'm KP. I go by Kiana. I'm also a professional Valorant player for Shopify Rebellion, and I'm an in-game leader.
That's awesome. Appreciate you both being here. Well, first and foremost, before we kind of get into it, shout out to UConnect for putting on this awesome event, and shout out to MSI, Red Bull, Twitch Student, and Corsair for sponsoring. Cool. So let's just kind of dive into the questions here a little bit. Today's panel is Valorant Path to Pro. Kind of want to pick your brains a little bit. So let me just kind of fire off some questions for you. I guess the first question will be, there are many high-level Valorant players as sort of the base grows and everyone's trying to rank up. Can you tell us a little bit about your personal journey, and what was your background before Valorant? Alexis, you can go first.
Okay. I sort of got into, first of all, like first-person shooters with like Call of Duty when I was very young. And then my brother introduced me to Counter-Strike. So I played that game for probably like 6 years, competitively for about 3. And I played on different all-female Counter-Strike teams, and we would compete in lots of different tournaments and stuff, and I kind of found a love for competing there. And then when Valorant came out, my teammate Mel hit me up and wanted to ask me if I would want to join her team. And then we were magical, and then we became Cloud9 White last year.
That's awesome.
I guess for me, it's a little bit similar with the Counter-Strike stuff, but prior to that, I actually started like Call of Duty trick shotting, like way back in middle school when I was like 12. And eventually, eventually I found out what game battles was through my friends. And so I started playing in Call of Duty, like Call of Duty Ghost, Call of Duty Black Ops 2, Advanced Warfare, game battles, UMGs. I remember like it got to a point where I would go tell my mom to buy like a Subway gift card and then put that Subway gift card into PayPal to play like $1 wager matches from like, 5 p.m. to midnight after school. And after that, I took my parents to one event, which was IEM San Jose in 2015. They saw gaming was a real thing, and I got a PC. And just like Alexis, I started playing Counter-Strike. So I did that for a good amount of time, as long as I can remember. And then when Valorant came out, I just hopped on the train.
That's awesome. So there's a lot of people kind of competing for spots all the time. What do you feel kind of made your journey unique that resulted in you being signed? KP, you can lead this one.
Yeah, so I guess my story is a little bit interesting. Like, I was struggling on a lot of free agent rosters that I was constantly building up. Being an in-game leader and also like a captain outside a game, it was hard, especially in Valorant. It was like one tournament, I felt like we had a decent result and we were talking to an organization. And then the next tournament, if we bombed out or if we had a kind of lackluster result, all the conversations stopped. So after I was on Elevate for a time, I signed with Elevate for a time, and that went to shit. But after that, it was mainly just trying to keep a team together of 5 normal human beings that would commit to not only each other inside of the game, but outside of the game. And then I don't know, it just kind of happened where like I don't know how to explain it, but basically like people kind of knew, like my friends, my really close friends knew. I had she, her in my bio for a while. Like people kind of knew I was trans. And it just kind of happened that a couple weeks after, I came out publicly, that Shopify reached out to me, and they wanted me to trial as like a 6-player slash, fill. And then things just kind of happened where I I'm now on the main team, like, and we just have a 6-player rotating roster, and it's super cool.
That's awesome. And congratulations, by the way. I did just
Thank
want to
you.
ask one more follow-up question. How long did it take you? Do you from the moment you kind of started, you picked up Valorant to like the moment that you got signed?
Yeah, so it was from day one of beta till I think August or October is when I first signed with Elevate. That was like my first like real thing, I guess.
Mhm.
And then after that, it wasn't another 6 months, 7 months until Shopify. So a year and a half, about a year and a half of grinding.
Okay, that's awesome. Okay, let's kick it over to, and thank you for sharing that, by the way. Let's kick it
Yeah.
over to Alexis. Same question. What made your journey unique? Since, again, considering there's a lot of people always battling it out, what do you feel made your journey unique? And what made you stand out to be signed as a player?
I did have a lot of experience playing on competitive teams in Counter-Strike. I was signed to an org called Nemesis and an org called Anu in Counter-Strike. Um, yeah, I don't know. I had good stats in that game, but it kind of doesn't super carry over to Valorant. So when I
Yeah.
switched to Valorant, when I joined Magical, and we were the only all-female roster at the time. Like there were female teams, but none of them really stuck together in beta. So we've all been together since beta. And then we won the first all-female tournament, the FTW Summer Showdown, which is technically like classified as the first Game Changers now.
Mhm.
And we won that. And then after that, a lot of orgs were interested in us because we were kind of dominating like the female scene and also playing in a lot of open tournaments and beating male teams as well. And so I think what made us sort of unique is that we kind of paved the way for a lot of the other female teams to be signed now.
Mhm.
And Cloud9 was definitely like such an incredible org that reached out to us and really wanted us to be like not just a token female team. And we really took to that and really wanted to be signed by them.
That's awesome. And same follow-up question. From the moment you kind of picked up Valorant, how long or about how long did it get for you to start getting the attention of all the orgs that you joined?
I think it was from obviously beta till when we won the Summer Showdown. And then that's when we kind of got more attention, and like our magical Twitter got a bunch of followers and stuff, and people were kind of interested in seeing how we would progress.
Yeah. So maybe like 7 months around.
I think from April to August. So 6 months.
That's impressive. Okay.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Cool. Okay. So let's move on to the next question then. Training to be a pro player is a huge risk and a big gamble. Something many players looking to go pro kind of struggle with to explain to their parents. For sure, there's always that conversation, I think, in a lot of households. Let's see. How, sorry. Yeah, what did you factor in when making your decisions to go pro? And what should students think about uh, and put into consideration when taking this leap? Alexis, if you want to kick us off with that one.
Sure. My experience like coming from high school is a little bit different because I was homeschooled. So I kind of really didn't have much to do besides play video games all the time. And my parents kind of saw how much that I loved it and saw me upgrading my computer and stuff to make it easier for me to play. Um, and they kind of understood that I was like getting pretty good at it when they saw me like winning tournaments and stuff in Counter-Strike. Um, and I think what really like getting signed to like those smaller orgs like a new Nemesis, they kind of saw like, oh, okay, well, she's like serious about this. And now what I kind of do is I just try to balance school and Valorant as much as I possibly can. It's definitely very difficult sometimes, but I definitely want to keep continuing with school at the same time as Valorant, and they're able to support me in that way. Like they help me pay for my school, and they understand that I'm able to do both, and so they don't really knock me for wanting to play Valorant all the time.
Yeah. Okay, so before we go on to KP, can you expand a little bit about that? Because I think, or more on like your school and how you divide your time. Because I think a lot of people sort of they struggle with that idea of tacking on, potentially poor play or grinding out a particular game to get noticed. What does that time split look like for you? How many hours do you kind of put into both school and Valorant?
So when we originally got signed, I had already signed up for all my classes for the semester, so I was a full-time student and also playing full-time Valorant for a semester. that was definitely difficult because I was taking like calculus and other science classes. But kind of what I did was just made my schedule work for me, and then I just stuck to it. Like you kind of have to keep the self-discipline to kind of stick to it. And I have like a pretty good work ethic, so in terms of like hours, I mean, it kind of depended on each class, but like we would practice like 8 hours a day, sometimes more. And then after practice, I would do homework, or before practice, I would do homework. So it was pretty much just like all day grinds for a semester. And then now I'm only part-time. I do like 2 or 3 classes at a time.
That's crazy. Damn. Yeah, that's actually pretty cool. That is a grind, both for school and for, yeah. Okay, let me kick it over to KP. Same question. What did you factor in when making your decision to go pro, and what should students think about and put into consideration when making this leap?
I guess the main thing for me that I factored in was my own like mental happiness. And I know for the longest time, even with Counter-Strike, no matter how many times I got kicked down and like couldn't progress to the next like division, I still like gave it my all time and time again. And it's something I just love doing. Like I wouldn't trade competitive gaming for anything else really. I guess besides that, I didn't really think about too much. My parents have mainly been supportive. There's been some really hard conversations, don't get me wrong. There's been a lot of like, arguments between me and my parents too. But I think the big change for me was when COVID hit and Valorant came out at the same time. I remember really early on in the beta of Valorant, I think in the first like month or two alone, I won like $1,000 tournament and then a $700 tournament. And that's not much, but when my parents saw that like I finally started getting a little bit of money from competing, they kind of backed off a little bit. And I was able to just take the whole year of COVID off. So I actually didn't do like online school or anything. And I gave myself until pretty much the pandemic was over to try and get signed. And luckily now, like somehow the timing hit and I got onto Shopify and I'm going back to school. I'm also doing part-time class. And I think like Alexis said, you really just have to want it like more than other people. I don't really know how to explain it, but I made sure like to get my classes scheduled early. Like I made sure to meet with a counselor. I got my classes from 9 to 12, Monday to Thursday. And like it might be a rough schedule. I might be doing homework, early mornings or late nights, but that's something for me that what I'm doing like this is so worth it to me that struggle and that pain is it's going to pay off.
That's wonderful. Appreciate you sharing that too.
Mhm.
Let me switch over to another question here. Longevity is something that some people have in mind, others kind of don't consider. What is kind of like a long-term goal that you can share that you have about either being a pro player? Is being a pro player sort of the long-term goal, or are you looking more into kind of content creation and sort of building out a brand from what you're doing now? KP, if you want to kick us off.
Yeah, so I'm actually someone that I feel like I've been doing the content the whole time I've been a player. Like even in Counter-Strike, I was doing my best to stream all our matches, stream random games, upload to YouTube. And I guess now more than ever, I'm really, really trying to like take my content to the next level. And I think I've been putting a lot of effort into it, especially like recently I started doing this thing. I'm not sure if you're familiar. It's called VTubing. I basically have like a character on the screen and I built a whole brand around this penguin character, and it's definitely something I find very important to longevity in esports. I really feel like from Counter-Strike alone, I saw so many players on big name teams, and after they were either benched or dropped or they left the team because of frustration, whatever it might have been, they seemingly like disappeared. I just never heard about them again, or they were very, very low key. And to me, I feel like if you want to stay in the esports scene for a long time, you kind of have to build something around yourself, something that no matter if you're on a team or not is yours. And I feel like that's content, that's streaming, that's being a personality.
Absolutely. It's sort of like the legacy of masked superheroes. The superhero or the person in that suit might be gone, but the brand or the hero itself doesn't die, right?
Right,
It
right.
carries on, and you can kind of move that forward onto other things beyond just FPS games and titles. So that's pretty awesome. Appreciate you sharing that. Alexis, what about you? Is pro play the long-term goal for you, or is there anything you have kind of additionally tacked on to what you want to do and what you want to achieve long-term in the space?
I think my personal goal is definitely to play competitively for as long as I possibly can. Not sure how long that will be, hopefully a while. And definitely building a brand through Twitch and through streaming and social media, etc. But I think my overall career goal, like after I'm done competing in esports and maybe I don't want to stream as often anymore. I want to be a game developer. So hopefully, maybe working for Riot and trying to develop the competitive scene of a different game or something like that.
Okay, that's pretty cool. Okay, so let's move on to another topic then. So playing on stage versus playing online are very different experiences. During COVID, where there is mostly online gameplay, much of the on-stage anxiety kind of isn't really present. How do you plan on preparing yourselves for a return to stage play when COVID's done? Or is it simply a matter of getting on stage as much as possible to get used to it? Go ahead, Alexis.
I personally think you kind of just have to do it. Like you kind of just have to get as many reps as possible, playing smaller lands and then building up to a big tournament. You kind of just need the reps and experience to kind of battle those nerves. I know
Yeah.
for my team, we're kind of still trying to battle the nerves of online events, and like we're getting better with each tournament. So
Mhm.
I think it's just going to be the same kind of ball game for lands as well.
Okay. Is there anything you can kind of share about like how you prep to kind of get rid of those jitters like of online gameplay?
We do a lot of like meditation and breathing exercises before matches, as silly as it may sound. It definitely helps us a lot, and we have like our coaches hype us up like crazy, and it's kind of just like we have to remind ourselves that we're like all in this together. Like we're all nervous. We just have to turn it into excitement, pretty much. That's kind of what we do.
Got it. Love it. I played sports myself, so we used to have like crazy rituals where they're like, we do some crazy running at first, or like someone would hit us in the back of the head, and I just want to see kind of the similarities between them. KP, what about you? I see during COVID, there's mostly online gameplay. How do you plan on preparing yourself for a return on the stage to stage play when COVID's done, or is it simply a matter of getting on stage as much as possible to get used to it?
To be honest, for me personally, I actually feel better at a tournament on a stage or at a LAN setup than online.
Okay.
Especially being a leader, there are some things that are very hard to communicate, like because all my teammates have to go off of is my voice. But
Yeah.
in person, I found it much easier to not only bring other people up, but also it's so much easier to keep everyone level-headed. Sometimes you're playing online. Let's say you have 3 tournaments in a week. You have 5 days of practice and then 3 tournaments on the weekend. Tensions can rise. And like I've had situations where, I get mad at a teammate or we get mad at each other. They get mad at me, whatever. And I've never felt that in person because I'm just with the person. I can just give them a fist bump. Like I'm right there. Like no one's going to, like, we're not going to yell at each other face to face necessarily. So,
Yeah.
me personally, just from my experience in Counter-Strike, I am super excited to get back to normal tournaments and back on a LAN. I feel like I have no fear to yell at someone or to, scream across a LAN center that someone's horrible at the game and they're shit. And that's what I like. I mean, it's a video game. I feel like people getting offended by that or people saying not to do that, it's like, dude, we got to have some rivalries. Like we got to have some fun with what we're doing. So
Absolutely.
I like that.
So no fist bumps to the face. I love it.
No.
Um, cool. And what about? I mean, do you have any like pre-game rituals that you want to share?
Um, Not really, to be honest. I used to try a lot of crazy things in Counter-Strike. Um, really, really weird shit. But now I kind of just listen to some music, mostly video game soundtracks, and I
Yeah.
just get ready to play.
Awesome. Okay. All right. So moving on to the next question. Boot camps are a big part of the competitive experience, made more difficult by COVID. Have you gone through a boot camp yet with other teams? And if so, what was that experience like? KP, you smiled. I want to hear from you first.
So we haven't been through a boot camp yet for Valorant. I think we actually might have one coming up just in a little bit. But I did get to have two of my teammates actually come to my new apartment, and we kind of set up like a mini like LAN, and that was really, really awesome. So we didn't necessarily get to boot camp against other teams or boot camp ourselves, but it was a small version of it, and just seeing my teammates for the first time in person, just nothing replaces that feeling. I don't know, like it's just I can't describe it.
It also seems like you're like getting ready for stage play pretty early too.
Yeah. No, we have big goals at the Shopify team, and I feel like early on we struggled with some stuff. It's been really good lately, and like our site is set on like not only more co-ed tournaments, but also like LAN events.
Got it. Well, thanks for sharing. Okay, Alexis. So boot camps are a big part of the competitive experience. COVID makes it a little bit harder. Have you gone through a boot camp yet with other teams? And if so, what was that experience like?
No, we haven't boot camped yet. I've actually only met one of my teammates. I haven't even met the other four of them. So hopefully
Got it.
soon. I think now that everyone's sort of getting vaccinated and everything's kind of settling a little bit, that we'll hopefully have that this year.
Mhm.
But yeah, I'm really excited to meet my teammates for sure.
Awesome. Okay. All right. So with COVID keeping people indoors, playing video games, playing video games has become a big vehicle for entertainment. How do you think this has affected the overall Valorant community? Have skill levels increased significantly? What has the effect been on fatigue or even your overall interactions within the community? That was a toss up. Anyone can go first.
I can go. That's fine. I think that there's definitely a lot more players that are like going ham. Like you have way more time to grind when you don't like have a job to go to, or like you're not doing in-person school. It's like a little bit easier. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of people grinding, and people are getting better at a much faster rate, I feel. People are improving really quickly. As far as like fatigue, I think people are also burning out very quickly, and I think that the people who are getting out of that faster are going to improve faster and end up on top somehow. For example, like Sentinels, like they grind constantly and they have like very good mental, and that's kind of what keeps them on top, I feel. But yeah, kind of battling burnout is going to be the struggle for like the COVID era of gaming right now, I think.
Okay. KP, what do you think?
I think she honestly put it perfectly. The only thing I would add is that like with Valorant happening during COVID, I feel like I've never seen a game where I've gotten shit on by so many younger players. Like I don't know, it's just crazy the amount of talent coming from kids that are 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Like that pool of talent right now is crazy. And I definitely think COVID helped like breed that a lot. It allowed them to just stay home, play games. Like I know people, I've talked to younger players and I have some younger friends. They literally would sit in their Zoom call and like have the Zoom classroom up while they're queuing ranked Valorant. So I definitely think that helped a ton. And sometimes people don't realize that like early on in Valorant, when I tried to team with older players, someone who's 28, someone who's 30 and had, they have a job from 12 to 4 or 12 to 6. Unfortunately, like I think Valorant at the start was bad about like scheduling tournaments on weekdays and on mornings and on weekend mornings. And like a lot of the older players kind of got screwed over because they have real responsibilities that if you're not signed on a pro team, you can't skip your job and go to a tournament at 10 a.m., 8 a.m., noon, whatever it might be. So I feel like that might change soon because the world's kind of shifting back. And so I feel like the tournaments might pick up on that soon. and switch the times to later. But I think Alexis honestly said it pretty perfectly. So
Okay. All right, let's switch it up a little bit. Um, yeah. So, what are some things that you started practicing, or habits that you learned to develop under the guidance of a pro team that you didn't practice as an up and coming player? Alexis, if you want to go first.
I don't. Can you like rephrase the question? I don't really understand what it's asking.
Yeah.
Like, what did I?
So I'll repeat the question and then I'll rephrase. So, what are some things you started practicing or habits that you learned to develop under the guidance of a pro team that you didn't practice as an up and coming player? So, sort of what kind of habits did you pick up now that you practice with a pro team that you didn't have as an individual player?
Oh, definitely like things outside of practice for the most part. Like nutrition and exercise are so important to being a good player and being able to be focused during practice. It's
Okay.
actually insane how much I didn't do that before. And I would just get on my computer, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, ready to grind. Let's go, guys. Like definitely nutrition, like staying healthy and how much it affects you as being a professional.
Okay. Just to follow up one, can you explain sort of the difference of how your nutrition changed? So, for example, I feel like you were eating breakfast and just going straight to bed, and now you suddenly, have like 3 meals before you even get on the computer. Like, how has your nutrition changed?
For me personally, my whole team has their own things, but I cut out caffeine for the most part. I'll drink like a Red Bull occasionally, but I cut out coffee because it kind of made me feel pretty bad. I actually eat breakfast now. I didn't do that before. Um,
Got it.
and I'm able to like kind of schedule my meals around practice, so I have like a consistent schedule. So like during our break, like in the afternoon, I'll have lunch, and then during our evening break, I'll have dinner, and then afterwards, like I'll eat whatever else before bed and then go to sleep. And my sleep schedule is a lot better as well.
Got it. Have they like provided you with like a nutrition plan, or is it just kind of like you've just developed a different way of eating?
We have a nutritionist on Cloud9. We don't have like a plan, but it's kind of just like we're being more encouraged to take care of our health first before taking care of like warming up for the day kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Got it. Okay. KP, what are some things you started practicing or habits you learned to develop under the guidance of a pro team that you didn't practice as an up and coming player?
I think the biggest thing for me was sleep schedule. Uh, I remember as like a free agent and like leading teams, sometimes it'd be pretty exhausting. I'd want to do my own thing. I'd go to bed at 2, 3, 4, and let's say VCS started at noon. I'd wake up at like 11:45 or 11:50, crawl out of bed, and then literally just hop on the PC for like our first match. And so that changed a lot. Like as soon as the Built Butter slash Shopify opportunity came around, it started being like, oh, okay, I have to be at practice by noon. I'm gonna wake up at 10. I'm gonna go to the gym and I'm gonna shower so I feel refreshed before I get into the practice. I've never had a problem with like eating too much, eating too little, nor caffeine. So I guess it was just the sleep and kind of being better with time management.
You'd love to hear it. I think it's a lot of it is just kind of coming down to, our old habits before we kind of had a play style and a way to do things. And then once we get introduced to kind of structure, I feel like a lot of us kind of change our dynamic, especially because now we're sort of playing for other people just beyond ourselves, I suppose. And I think that can have a really big impact. Um, Let me see. What are your thoughts on the most recent updates in Valorant from a competitive standpoint? Alexis, if you want to take that one first.
I think as far as the updates in general, like I'm so happy that Riot takes into account pro player perspectives and like actually ask us like, hey, are you guys down for this? Like, does this sound good? Like, we didn't have that in CS. Like, they didn't update anything in CS, let alone ask us what we wanted. So it's actually insane. As far as the last update, I think the last big thing was like KO, right? And Breeze, I guess. Honestly, it kind of makes me sad. I don't get KO in my ranked games at all. Like, I don't know about UKP. I do not get him. he's
No.
just not played in ranked.
Nobody plays the droid.
I know. It's kind of sad because I want to see him be played more, but hopefully he's played in like tournaments more often. I haven't even seen him in tournaments too much. Yeah, that's kind of my take.
Okay. What about you, KP?
Yeah, retweet on the Riot being good devs. I remember playing Counter-Strike. Okay, I played Counter-Strike. I went to a LAN in like 28 end of 2018, and the Krieg was busted. Everyone complained
Oh.
about it.
Yep.
I went to a LAN in like January 2020. The Krieg was still busted. Like they did not care. So shout out Riot. Yeah, they are amazing. Changes recently. I think the big one for me and our team was the ult orb changes. A lot of the character kit got increased in price. Like all my characters got nerfed. Like Sage got nerfed, Sova got nerfed, Sky. Some people call it a buff. I think it's more of a nerf. And that was a really hard week or two where we were just really depressed about a lot of the changes. Since then, it's been great. Everything they're doing is really good. I don't know why though they made all the green boxes spammable. I don't know who woke up at Riot and said, "Yep,
yeah.
this is poggers. This is a good idea," because that is just the dumbest thing. I died in a ranked game the other day and I actually got tilted because I died straight through the green box. So that needs to change. But besides that, they're amazing.
Okay.
Agreed.
Okay. Appreciate you all sharing that. All right. Next question is going to be, what could Riot do moving forward to make it easier for players like you to go pro? What do you wish they did as you were coming up that would have made the pathway forward more equitable or clear up for up and coming players? Whoever's got the strongest opinion can go first.
I think they're already doing a lot now. That I mean, it was in the game was in beta. Like they had very little for us in the beginning, but like they're like creating in the client tournaments, and the leaderboard is actually very helpful for like up and coming players that want to be noticed. Leaderboard's really helpful, and the the amount of tournaments are definitely helpful for up and coming players as well, and like the smaller ones even to like the larger ones, because you see so many teams upsetting other teams. Like KP was saying, there's so many young players now coming up, and there was a team of like people only under 15 that like took a map off Cloud9. I feel bad I don't remember the name of the team, but that happened like a couple days ago. That was insane.
Yeah.
So yeah, things like that, just helping players get noticed more, I think will help.
Okay. KP?
Yeah, I think Riot's doing a pretty damn good job so far. I would honestly say it's a double-edged sword, but I guess what could help make it more clear, I guess, to be signed to become a pro player is to have a ladder system of some sort for teams. And I think they're trying to do that with the tournaments. But I remember Counter-Strike was a very clear, like, you are here and the pros are here and you have to climb this rank and this rank and this rank.
Yeah.
Whereas in Valorant right now, it's kind of like, hey, grab 4 teammates, play random tournament and keep competing until someone notices you and signs you. That's kind of how it's gone recently. Mm-hmm. And I sometimes I'll see a team get signed in a month and like they have one amazing result and boom, all 5 of the players are signed. And then there's teams like shout out Virtuoso. It blows my mind that Virtuoso is not picked up by a salaried organization yet. And I just feel like it's a double-edged sword, but I feel like a ladder system would be mostly good to show where you're at, where you can get to. But at the same time, the ladders over the open tournaments, the ladders really incentivize like gatekeeping a lot. And I think that was a really annoying thing with Counter-Strike, because in Valorant, a lot of players that were not successful in Counter-Strike have proved that they are good players and they are smart, talented, skillful players. So I kind of like the open tournament system for that reason.
Okay. So actually, I sort of want to dive down that rabbit hole just a little bit, because I feel like this is kind of an ongoing conversation whenever it comes to hosting, some Valorant tournaments or performing. I guess how much does rank come into consideration when it comes to determining whether someone is good or not, or like pro worthy or not? I think some of the conversations I've had in the past, some people who were incredibly high ranked couldn't fit the bill to be part of a team. So sort of what makes a pro player, I suppose.
I think the in-game ranking system is kind of just to show how much you grind and isn't an accurate depiction of like how good you are. I think it kind of just shows like if you want to be radiant, you have to play like every single day and at least like 3 or 4 games a day minimum
Mhm.
if you want to reach radiant, because everyone else is grinding more than that and are winning more than that. So that
Mhm.
just shows that you have to grind. Outside of that, it's kind of just like when you are playing, like giving it your all. That's kind of what shows me that someone is like wants to be a pro player at least.
Mhm.
As far as like, I don't know, it's hard because the in-game ranking system, like pugs, are just so scuffed sometimes. They're not a good like accurate representation of like how good people are
Yeah.
90% of the time.
Okay. What about you, KP?
Yeah, so I think I actually have a pretty solid opinion on this. I think the in-game rankings are a baseline for like, are you semi-aware and can you aim? And I think Immortal and Radiant, either is fine. You've shown that you semi understand the game and you can shoot back. You're not a bot. However, the thing that's common misconception that I see a lot on social media is people think that because they are Radiant, because they are top 100, top 50, whatever it might be, a lot of people misconcept that number, that ranking in the game, to how good you actually are in a team setting. I've seen tweets that go, oh, I'm on the front page of the leaderboard. Why am I not signed? Like, who wants me? What org wants to pick me up? And a lot of players don't understand that that's not how it works. Like, the Radiant ranking is just a bare marker for, yes, you are talented in these categories, but it doesn't show team play, communication, how you take criticism, like X, Y, and Z other things that go into being a pro player. And I think the best thing for people to do, I've had friends come to me like, KP, I can't get out of this tier 3 team. I can't get out of this, like, I can't get past this marker. What should I do? And the best thing for some of these players to do is to find other players exactly like them that are like-minded, that committed, won't leave a team after 1 week of playing or one bad tournament. Form together and start playing some of the open events. See how good you really are against some of the other players. Like, yes, there are some ranked players that on their own, they can play against Shazam, Dapper, like whoever it might be. But in a team setting, they just haven't gotten to that level yet. They are really bad. And I think a lot of players just lack that. They don't understand that it's experience. It's not skill in game. It's not awareness. It's just that experience that differs from pro versus just a Radiant player.
Well said, and that was beautiful. I think a lot of the conversation always revolves around what makes a good player, and kind of what makes them adept to be plugged into a team setting to maybe participate. And I think, in a team, whether it's tier 1, tier 2, or 3, I think a lot of people have always that question lingering in the back of their mind. Like, if I wanted to play Valorant, I want to go pro, should I climb the ladder or should I look for lands or online tournaments to participate in and kind of put on my Twitter bio, right? Cool. So right before I get into the next question, I did want to shout out Twitch chat. By the way, we're going to be spending the last 10 minutes of this panel answering questions directly from Twitch chat. So if you guys have any specific questions for both KP and Alexis, please and thank you. Start plugging them in now before we close out the topics that we have scheduled. And then we'll move on to live Q&A in the last 10 minutes from whatever Twitch chat has a question for both of our panelists. So, okay. What are some things KP and Alexis, or lessons that you've learned or developed now that you'd like to impart on students to learn early on? Alexis, if you want to kick us off.
I'm trying to think. I think a lot of, I think a big one is taking criticism. I'm gonna just put that out there first. Like that's a really big one. because I know a lot of players who burn bridges because they don't understand criticism versus someone attacking you. So that's a big one. Also, just general communication. Like, you need good communication in game, but you also need good communication with your teammates outside of the server as well. Whether that be in ranked or if you have an actual team. And as far as like being a student and trying to go pro goes, just like having a schedule and sticking to it and being really disciplined with how you use your time.
Okay. KP?
Yeah, I think I just want to expand. I said this on the last panel I was on, but I want to really expand on what Alexis said about not burning bridges. That is just, trust me, no matter how stupid someone's being, no matter what they said about you, no matter if they scummed your team with a server, my biggest advice that students should know is just to just take a deep breath, get off social media or ignore what someone's saying about you. I have been on both the receiving end and the giving end of like burning a bridge, and it's just not worth, especially in a game like Valorant where it's 5 people to make a team. What happens is if you burn a bridge with just one of the other 4 players, that could get you removed from a team. Or in the future down the line, let's say those 4 were on a pro salary team and they were looking for one player to try out. If one person doesn't like you, you're not going to get the tryout. That's just how it kind of has gone in the esports. It's very political at the mid to high level. And so burning bridges early on over something really, really small or stupid, just trust me from my own experiences alone, not worth it.
Thank you. And if you guys can hear, my dog's at everybody. Let me go ahead and just kind of touch up a little bit about that, because I think you touched a very important subject. If you had to give a percentage, or if you just had to kind of give a short blurb about the politics in gaming and coming up in esports, like how much of it is it politics, and how much is it your skill and being recognized and kind of sought out? Shooting this one over to you, KP.
I think it's a case by case basis, especially with Valorant. I've seen some that are completely one way and some that are, really just someone is completely brand new and pops off and has all that skill there. I personally like to think it's more skill than the politics. I think the politics just can get you places faster or can keep you at a place for a longer period of time. I just like to tell myself that it's more skill based, but you got to play the game a little bit. You definitely have to be on social media. People need to know who you are. And I think that's a huge part of esports.
Love it. Alexis, what about you?
I definitely agree. I also like to say to myself it's more skill based. I think a lot of esports is also just who you know, though. Like, if you could be the best player in the universe, and if nobody knows, if you don't like build connections with other players, like, you're probably not going to get on a team regardless of how good you are. Unless you just get really lucky. It is a lot of like who you know and making connections that way.
Is this is a kind of like a saying in marketing, right? Where it's like, you can have the best product in the world, but if nobody knows about it, no one's going to buy it.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think a lot of that can be pretty dominant here in being recognized for your skill, but also kind of who knows about you is very important, right? Who can vouch for you and to say, hey, I've played with this person before, I've interacted with this human, and they're a solid pickup. Could be pretty helpful or pretty detrimental when it comes to being picked up. Okay, so I want to move and transition a little bit more over into kind of interacting with Twitch chat for just a little bit. Before we go into that, everybody in Twitch chat, shout out to, I guess, everyone that's chatting. If you can, please and thank you, start submitting your questions now, and then we'll kick things off with the backlog of questions I have. So first question from Twitch chat is, what perks from sponsors do you get for being part of your pro team? Do you get free Shopify? Do you get free Red Bull? What perks do you receive?
I'm just laughing because Shopify isn't a product, like free Shopify. No,
You get a 3 month trial, right?
no. They've been incredible. It's honestly not only improved my mental, but also just how I perform. They kind of asked us, hey, what do you need to play at the highest level? I've gotten a new computer. I have a new chair coming in because my back's been bothering me because we spend so much time at a desk. A headset, this microphone that I have right here, they kind of provided it all. And Shopify doesn't have a lot of sponsors, but they made sure that anything we needed, we have just to perform at the highest level. And it's been amazing. It's honestly been incredible.
That's awesome. I love it. Alexis, what are some perks of being at Cloud9 from the sponsorship side?
It's a lot of the same. It's kind of like things that we sort of need to play at our best. So like keyboard, mice, monitors, share, etc. We're also sponsored by Red Bull and Puma, so we get some gear from them, as well as HyperX EPOS, but that's like with the headsets, microphones, etc.
Okay.
But yeah, it's kind of just like anything we could think of to help our performance. And we also, I don't know if they're a sponsor, but we are connected to this platform called Fit Gamer. Sounds pretty nerdy, but before practice we get on and we do like meditations and exercises and things like that, and that really helps us like get started with our day. It's kind of like team bonding. We like exercise with each other and meditate, etc. So it's pretty awesome. Yeah.
That's pretty cool. Okay. I like that too. I've been on the sponsorship side as well from teams, and all I remember is like pushing out a bunch of like computers and pushing out a bunch of hardware out to teams to make sure that everyone's always been outfitted. With any relationships that we had, we always wanted to make sure that the teams are operating on the best hardware, and on the best stuff, really, just in general. So, the esports athletes can just kind of perform at their best. So it's good to hear that they're also taking care of you, and that kind of mindset still reigning. So next question from chat is, would you, and I think we covered this a little bit earlier, but what tips can you share with us on how to get noticed by a pro team? If I wanted to start right now, I wanted to grind out. And I think we touched on this a little bit earlier, but if I got a fresh account, and I wanted to start grinding, get noticed, what do I do?
Make a Twitter account. Make a Twitter account.
Yeah.
Everyone in esports is on Twitter. Make a Twitter account. Post your clips. Like, be nice to everyone in your ranked games. It's very important because that could be someone on a Smurf account. You never know. Yeah, make those connections. Just start making those connections, even if it's just someone who you clicked with in a ranked game one time. Like, make the connections and post on Twitter. That's what I have to say.
Is there a possibility of like shooting a friend request to people that I like? Should I be shooting a friend request to people that I like playing with?
Oh yeah. Yeah, for sure. If you're trying to like build a team at all, just like send friend requests to anyone that you click with at all in ranked. Especially if you are like a fresh account and you don't really know anybody in the scene yet, that's definitely an amazing way to get started.
Awesome. What about you, KP?
Yeah, just same that Alexis said. There have been so many people I've met at a LAN tournament, local event, or online in my ranked games, and I'm like having a really good time with them. And so I'm like, hey, what's your Twitter? Let's stay in touch. And they go, I don't have a Twitter, or like I don't have a gaming Twitter. And I think a lot of people don't realize, or people haven't made this analogy that Twitter is the LinkedIn of esports. You're not gonna go on LinkedIn to find your next pro player or your next streamer, content creator. It's all happening on Twitter. I'm not a huge fan of a lot of social medias, but you got to be on Twitter. Besides that, grab your friends, start playing in tournaments. Even if you think, oh, I'm going to play this tournament and we're going to get absolutely smashed and rolled, just start playing. I know so many players that are just they're afraid to lose, and they're afraid to make that first step to just start competing. And just honestly, go for it. Valorant is a sometimes random game. Anyone can win.
That's fair enough. I like that. Okay, so next question is, would you consider playing or subbing in for your collegiate team? I know, Alexis, you touched on a little bit about being in college and going full time, but also grinding out for Valorant. If you had the opportunity, and let's say they did have an esports club and invited you to play, would you take that opportunity? Would you play in or for sub for your collegiate team?
Yeah, if I wasn't signed to Cloud9, I absolutely would. That sounds amazing. Not only to get connected with more people at my university, but also to represent them in esports would be like the ideal goal, like dream come true for me. So yeah, if I wasn't on a team, that would absolutely be what I was striving for.
It's awesome. KP?
Yeah, same here. If I wasn't with Shopify, I would love to play with my collegiate team if we had one. I went to the esports club once and they said like Counter-Strike and stuff is too violent, so they don't really play it. I'd love it if they did.
Yeah.
And recently I was inspired by my longtime teammate Rahante. Him and his collegiate team from Canada actually got to fly to Spain for the Red Bull Campus Clutch. And I think a lot of players, if they're maybe afraid to enter the pro scene right off the start, collegiate teams are the perfect place to start.
Beautiful. I love that. Okay, so do you think the general high ranking unsigned Valorant players are more toxic than in the other esports communities? Let's talk about toxicity for a little bit. Go ahead, Gaby.
Um, this is a hard one. It really is. I think yes and no. The only other game I could compare Valorant to in terms of toxicity would be like Fortnite. Counter-Strike had its fair share of shit, but it's really hard and sometimes it's disgusting. Like I feel like the only reason sometimes I don't get, transphobic comments towards me or bad comments towards me in ranked games is because I'm known or because I have a following and like people are afraid of getting canceled on Twitter. However, I queue with some of my friends or, even transgender friends who aren't involved with competitive Valorant, and someone will see the trans player card or the, gay, lesbian, pride player card and instantly just go off on my friend. And I think it's pretty bad. There's a lot of people in Valorant that are just weird and awkward and don't know what is crossing a line and what is not. I'm someone who's not afraid in my rank games to be like, dude, you are really bad at the game. Like you're really shit. Can you stop doing this? That doesn't, I have no problem saying that. But there are so many people I've seen recently, and maybe it's because COVID, a lot of people are behind a screen, behind a keyboard. They're not afraid of any repercussions, are just spewing the most hateful shit out of their mouth. And
Yeah.
it's at the high levels of Valorant, it's really not there because fortunately everyone is on Twitter and we all are connected. So what has happened that I'm sure Alexis has probably seen too on Twitter, someone at a high level says some really, really bad things, phobic or hateful or against a race, gender, whatever it might be, they get booted out of the scene. They are never on a team ever again after that. So luckily it hasn't been there at my level, but I know Immortal, Diamond, Platinum, it's all there. It's all there.
It's like, yeah, it's one of the, what is it, bottom-ish tiers where like, the consequences aren't completely there because
Yeah.
I guess the microscope isn't really on those players, so they feel like they can get away with that. So yeah, sorry you have to go through all that stuff and as
No,
well as
that's
your
okay.
friends. Alexis, do you have any insight on toxicity?
I think like KP said, in like the higher levels, like Upper Immortal and Radiant, everyone kind of knows each other to a certain extent. Like everyone's connected on Twitter, everyone's played with each other in a ranked game before, like everybody is kind of familiar with each other.
Mhm.
Below that, it gets really bad. For women, trans people, like any marginalized community, it even just having a player card that, like KP said, like one of the gay, lesbian, bi, trans player cards, like you can just be like in the loading screen to a game be called slurs. Like it's kind of ridiculous. And I do appreciate what Riot is doing I feel like half the people I get like that I report something happens, they get banned or something like that. And also, I don't think this is in effect yet, but how they said they were going to record voice comms as well to kind of
I
also
remember that.
negate
Yeah.
some of that negativity. Yeah. So Riot's definitely taking it very seriously. Hopefully that affects some of the lower ranks, because I know at a higher rank, like KP also said, like you're afraid to get canceled on Twitter. Like nobody is gonna say anything to someone with C9 in their name, with Shopify in their name. Like nobody's gonna say anything to you because you're just gonna be blasted on Twitter and be shot out of the community ASAP. So, yeah, hopefully it gets better towards the lower ranks, because it actually is disgusting.
It's true. Okay, so let's kick off one last question, just because we have a lot of questions. I want to make sure that I try to cover as many as possible, but production is yelling at me right now to try to wrap it up. So let's go ahead and answer this last one real quickly, and then we can just wrap up the show. Last question. How did you manage to balance school life and Valorant? I personally feel like I need to grind a lot just to improve just a little bit. Sorry, that was the question from Twitch chat. The question is, how did you manage to balance school life and Valorant? Awkward.
I'll go.
Go ahead. Yes, go
Uh,
ahead, Alex.
Sorry, I was used to
on-
you calling on people.
Do you want to
Hi,
take
go
the
ahead,
lead?
Alexis.
Yeah, I got it. So for me, like I said, it's just like a lot of discipline. And I think to tackle like the second part of the question, like have to play a lot to improve a little. I think when you have that short amount of time, you kind of have to do a VOD review, like watch yourself play and pick out the specific things that you're seeing yourself make mistakes on and focus on those things. Like you kind of have to make a list of the things you want to improve on, like the very nitty gritty, like kind of specific things, and you'll see improvement faster and larger improvements as well. Because just playing the game consistently, like it's kind of like a slow grind. Whereas if you play a couple games and then review them and kind of dive deep into the errors you're making, you'll improve a lot faster than if you're just like spamming ranked. But yeah, just sticking to a schedule, making sure that you have a schedule that works for you and it isn't going to burn you out super quickly. Everyone experiences burnout, but trying to minimize that as much as possible and knowing how to get yourself out of it is kind of the most important part, at least for me. But yeah.
AP, if you want to
Yeah,
close this out.
This question's easy for me. I got the good closer. I didn't balance school and Valorant because I wasn't in school during COVID, but I've got that coming up in the future. I've set a schedule. I'm gonna stick to it, and I know what I can and cannot handle.
Beautiful. Okay, well, that's it for our panel. We did want to thank you one last time, Alexis and KP, for joining us in today's panel. Thank you for sharing the insights, and thank you for taking the time to take questions from the audience and kind of just get grilled pretty much for about an hour. Lastly, shout out to MSI, Red Bull, Twitch Student, and Corsair for sponsoring Collegiate Rising one more time. And shout out to Uconnect for putting on this awesome panel. If you guys want to, actually, if the audience wanted to find you, Alexis and KP, where can they find you real quickly? Where can they find you to just kind of know more about you?
You can find me mainly on Twitter at Alexis Marie NY or on Instagram at c9.alexis. That is where I post most frequently. I also stream on Twitch at Alexis. Yeah, that's where you can find me.
Awesome. What about you, KP?
At KP_FPS on Twitter, and just at KPFPS on all other social medias. I'm still working on that underscore on the Twitter.
Wonderful, wonderful. And if you guys are interested in just anything I have to offer, at Rutso1 on Twitter. And with that, let's close out this segment. Thank you all once again for tuning in and watching. My name is Rutso, here with Alexis and KP, closing out Collegiate Rising Valorant Path to Pro. Catch you all on the next one. Peace.